Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast. And now, stand up and make some noise for your host, Joel Jacob.
What's going on, Heat Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. Like always, I'm your host, Joel Jacob, and you can follow me on Twitter at JoelKJacob_. Now let's meet our guests for today. First, we got Brian.
What's up?
And then we got George.
What's up, guys?
Great to have you guys here. So let's kick off today's episode and let's talk about this most recent game for the Heat, which was when he went and faced the LA Lakers. Now, although the Heat only won by 6, we're just simply going to focus on the fact that the Heat dominated for like most of this game, allowing them to improve their record to 30-17 while currently being first in the East. Leading the way for Miami, you got Jimmy Butler with 20 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds, and 2 steals. This gave Jimmy his 10th Miami Heat triple-double, giving him the record for most triple-doubles in Heat history. What made it more interesting was the fact that he accomplished this against the former record holder in LeBron. To add on, you then have Duncan Robinson with 25 points and 6 threes, along with 5 rebounds and 2 steals. Caleb Martin with 15 points and the game-sealing dunk at the end. Bam Adebayo with 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. Gabe Vincent with 11 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals. With that being said, how do you guys feel after watching the Heat take care of business against the Lakers? Kick us off, George.
Yeah, no, I was so happy watching that game. I watched in anticipation because I knew that from the last time. Watching all those Lakers fans talk their stuff, it was hard to sit there and bear through it. But I knew that walking into this game, we were definitely the better team. We were more informed. They've got their own, massive problems over in LA. But I felt confident walking into the game, and as we should have, we were dominating for most of the game. We let them come back with a run at the end, but it was never in doubt, in my opinion. Jimmy just took over the game and looked just phenomenal. Duncan was back to his old ways. Finally did in a home game, shot 55% from 3 as well. It's exactly what we need from him. So, in a night where Bam wasn't looking for a shot most of the night, which is still really concerning because even before the injury, he was doing the same thing, not looking for a shot. But when you got a guy like Duncan, it was popping off. It was, I was really happy with that. Caleb Martin also showed why he deserves his contract. He's just been absolutely phenomenal as well. Shot 2 threes, made them both. Just was great for us. Max Strus contributed really well. Vincent did the same. Tucker was even good, but the defense was amazing. We were just clowning them for 38 minutes probably. We were just clowning them, and it was hilarious to see. LeBron did his own thing. He was amazing, but the rest of the team it's got their own problems as well. There's just no cohesion there. But watching our team be fully healthy, mostly fully healthy, really did, make me happy and gave me more hope for the future. For when Oladipo comes back as well, having another added layer of depth. But no, we played well. We deserved to win, and that's exactly what we did.
Right. How about you, Brian?
Yeah, it was a team victory. I mean, you had 5 guys in double figures, 3 guys who were only a point or 2 away from it. And you can see how much the Heat really focused on their passing and playing team ball from the jump, essentially. I thought that they did a really good job of forcing the Lakers to take a ton of threes, which they aren't very good at. And it was just overall a really dominant win. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Lakers are a very I don't want to say they're not horrible. They're mediocre at best, right? So this was a game that he absolutely should have won. And it was good to see them playing good team ball to do that. Like, no one guy was particularly dominant, but that's okay because this team isn't built on, one guy going out and getting you 40 to win a game. It's this team functions at its best when everybody is flowing. And that's exactly the type of game that we got.
Right. And George, do you want to add on?
Yeah, no, they're definitely a mediocre team when you look at it, the middle of the road and everything, but they've got some outstanding factors as well. They're seventh in points, seventh in steals and blocks. So I feel like the whole narrative and they're not being, an amazing defensive team. They're still viable, but it's the cohesion there that really was lacking and was showing they were lacking as well. But of course, you see fans yelling, crying refs, crying this and that. It was never fair, blah blah blah, which is a joke at the end of the day. I think it's just crazy to even believe that. But having the performance that we did, where Jimmy actually came out to be a facilitator since Larry's still out with personal reasons. Shout out to Larry, hopefully he's okay. But having Jimmy be there and facilitate on such a high level for us is such a added bonus. And also him putting up 20 points is just perfect. But I would like to see this team show this performance against other teams as well, teams that are, higher in their conference as well. But I'm more than happy with the performance. We've done it already against all the best teams as well. So we're the one seed for a reason. That's our place to lose now. And hopefully the victories keep on coming.
Right. And Brian, would you like to add on more to this?
No, I don't really have anything to add.
All right. So with that being said, I know you actually brought up something good, George, in talking about that one seed. And that's what I want to talk about now because, like when you look at it, the Heat managed to dangerously loom their way into that first seed. And, it's like seeing the way how the Heat had to overcome so much just to get to this point. Like, how do you guys feel about Miami being in this position right now? Start us off, Brian.
It's amazing. I mean, it's not from the perspective that the Heat couldn't have been one of the best teams in the East. Like I think coming into the season, you look at the roster and, you knew that they were going to be one of the better teams. But I think that given how much time Jimmy has missed, how much time Bam has missed, to see other guys really, really step up in their absence, I think it speaks to that. It speaks to the fact that, guys like Max Strus and Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin and even PJ Tucker have all played better than I think many of us thought that they would going into this season. It speaks to the improvement of Tyler Hero. It speaks to, just how good Kyle Lowry still is. Kind of like how I mentioned in the last segment, this is a real team. Like the strength of this team is built on everybody's contributions. And that's, I think, what allows them to survive these absences with, whoever's out. It doesn't matter whether it's Kyle or Tyler or Jimmy or Bam, this team can still bounce back and win games. And I think that that's an important thing going forward. And it's needed in the playoffs. If you have a game where Jimmy or Bam doesn't have it, you need someone else that can step up. And this team definitely is built to do that. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to say that it's weird because basically no team has been healthy this first half of the year. And I think that there's merit to that. This whole COVID thing, whether it's COVID or injuries, everyone's kind of playing with this mix mash. But even regardless of that, in the chaos, the Heat still have found a way to thrive. And I think that that's an added layer of, what makes this run so impressive. It's the fact that, everybody has been dealing with stuff, but it says a lot if you don't crumble in the face of that. And the Heat haven't. They found a way to be consistent. And that's not just to speak with the players, but we got to give Eric Spoelstra some credit because I don't know. In fact, I'm pretty sure that you give this roster with all the injuries and the COVID stuff to almost any other coach, and they're nowhere near as successful. So it really is impressive.
Ray, how do you feel, George?
Yeah, the fact that we've done it with no consistency in team health is nothing short of a miracle, to be honest. When you look at our ranking, we might be the first seed, but there's been a lot of situations, obviously due to injuries and things like that, where we can still improve to an unbelievable level, which is such an exciting prospect. But when you look at it as it stands, we're 28th in field goals attempted. We're 23rd in 2 points attempted. So basically, we're taking a lot more threes. We're 14th, middle of the road in 3 points attempted. 30th in blocks because Ban's been out, which has been not that great. But what are you going to do? We have 24th in fouls, which is not a good thing. But the fact that we've got all this with so much to improve on, and be the first seed is a blessing because teams will have to respect the fact that we haven't been healthy and we've still been winning, which is a great prospect. But yet the media will never ever admit it, which is actually exactly how I'd like it to be, because more eyes off you, more time in the gym, more time actually focusing on the game of basketball, which is really important for us. But we're getting better every single week. We're getting better. We're proving why we're not just dangerous loomers, and we're not just looming there dangerously. But no, it's just a time for us to be really happy and to show off the fruits of our labor, because being the one seed at any capacity is extremely difficult. But to do it on this consistent of a basis, night in, night out, with guys that we didn't even think we were going to be in the rotation by the end of it. Like the players like Max Strus, where we were hoping he'd make a jump, and he did, thank God. Same with Gabe Vincent. Duncan struggled, but at the end of the day, he still has these games where he proves why he deserved that contract that he got. But we got to keep in mind that there's only 2.5 games separating first from sixth as well. So keep up the pressure, keep up the good work, and we should be fine.
Right. And Brian, do you want to add on to this?
No, I agree with everything George said.
Right. Like, when you look at this Miami Heat team, I mean, you guys summed it up great. Like, to have had the injuries, to have had Bam to miss 4 to 6 weeks, the fact that Victor Oladipo isn't even back yet. Like, I'm still hyped up. As this pod is being recorded, we've seen the videos of today of Victor working out and everything. And it's so crazy because, he hasn't come back yet. And it's like, we're going to really see Victor added to this Heat team that's currently number 1 in the East. And it's funny that nobody wants to talk about this, but then again, this is the Miami Heat, and we know how the national media feels about us. So who cares at this point? But overall, I'm just excited to see what this Heat team does next. And, we really have a good team, which is why I'm now a little intrigued by something that I heard yesterday, and I want to make this a discussion for today, and that's none other than the recent news about Christian Wood of the Houston Rockets. So for those who missed it, Kelly Iko from The Athletic reported that Miami has been one of the more persistent teams in the pursuit for Christian Wood. Now, I know I speak for a lot of people when I say that I was surprised to hear this. And because of this, I want to ask you guys if you personally want Christian Wood on this team. And even if you feel that he's not what this team needs, like, do you have any reason in mind for why the Heat have interest in him? This time you could start us off, George.
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting prospect of having another power forward on the team. I'm a big fan of the move, but I'm not a fan of disrupting team chemistry. As we're sitting down as well, there's reports John Wall has been working out in Miami, away from the Houston Rockets, but isn't interested in losing money in a buyout. So he shouldn't be in Miami expecting anything but good weather. So, we're going to be. It's inevitable that any team is going to be, extremely talked about in the media about, talking about who's going to go there. Like, there's potential moves, players that we're interested in. We're always going to be interested in looking at players. That's just what Pat Riley does, and our front office is paid to do, is to keep tabs on players. Now, is it anything more than a cash grab by these places? I don't think there is. I don't think any of these trades will come to fruition. Being the 1 seed and not being healthy just shows that we've got an extremely deep team that's built well, built on great coaching. Even LeBron James said it as well. There's nothing that this team needs to do at the moment unless some Godfather offer comes where someone comes, the Utah Jazz looking to blow it up and it's going to sell Oladipo, Donovan Mitchell for they're going to want Hero in a first or something like that, then obviously you're pulling the pin on the trade. But besides that, I don't think anything's going to happen. The team's in a weird salary cap position as well, where they can't really afford to, exceed anything, because we're looking towards, actually having to pay a lot of players in the incoming future. So bringing on any big contracts without shedding big contracts is very rough, because all that money's tied up in Lowry, Butler, and Bam. Really, Duncan is a movable contract. I don't really count him on the cap. But those three players account for nearly 90 million of what we've got to spend. So, and in 2 years' time, we're spending 52 million on Jimmy. So it's a game of chess, not checkers. So we've got to be patient. Enjoy the fact that these places get the most money out of talking about the Miami Heat. We all love seeing Miami, pop up from NBA Central and ESPN. We love to see it, but I don't think any of these trades will come. The fit, on the other hand, is quite good. I would personally do a Christian Wood trade if the price was right, but I'm also looking towards the future for our money as well. So unless you're shedding Duncan's contract in that trade, I wouldn't consider it.
Right. And how about you, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know how much I even believe the Christian Wood trade is a thing. To me, it kind of sounds like the Houston Rockets putting that out there to increase the value of Christian Wood, because if they say, if they're telling teams, oh, hey, Miami's interested, teams are going to look at the Miami Heat and the number one seed and be like, well, I guess we got to give more than whatever Miami is giving. So it's more of that, I feel like, because usually stuff doesn't leak from Miami, especially not a few weeks from the trade deadline. We would have heard about something from the local guys first, and I just don't think it entirely makes sense right now. Like, I don't know what you're trading for Christian Wood. I guess it'd have to be Duncan Robinson and some other thing of value, but that seems weird to do when you haven't gotten, all four of your top guys playing together consistently yet. Duncan Robinson kind of come on a little bit. It just doesn't make a ton of sense from that perspective. But I did want to go back to something about the media, because I think that a lot of Heat fans, rightfully so, are frustrated with the lack of national conversation. And I understand it. Like, I understand the hit of dopamine that comes every time you see the Heat on a First Take segment or on some popular Twitter account, or, there's a national article. And it's absolutely deserved. Like, I think that the Heat have obviously been one of the best teams in the league, and they deserve that recognition. But I think we also have to take a step back and realize market size, right? Like, everyone's like, the Heat beat the Lakers recently, destroyed them outside of that last quarter, and all ESPN wants to do is talk about LeBron James. Well, the fact is, LA has almost 4 million people. The city of Miami has 450,000. So even if you put out an article that was read by all the people in Miami, let's just assume that everybody in Miami is a Miami Heat fan. If you put out an article or do a segment that's watched or read by every single person in Miami, you only need 15% of everybody in LA to match that, right? So it really just is a matter of clicks and views, because that translates directly into money. Not really a merit-based thing, unfortunately. So again, I get it, but it's just some of these cities are so big, man. I think that we forget about that. We forget that cities like LA and Chicago and Philly have massive populations and media markets. And again, that stuff, or both of those factors, give life to an article or a TV segment that is going to put money in the pockets of those that create them. So that's what it comes down to. I hope that as fans, we don't get too offended by it. If Miami was a massive city like LA or New York, or, one of these other really big places, Philadelphia, they would be getting the same coverage, but they don't, unfortunately. So the local guys do it better anyway. That's ultimately, you don't want to hear Stephen A talking about the Miami Heat. You want to hear, like 5 reasons talk about the Miami Heat. So it is what it is.
Right. And I agree with you. And George, I'll let you add real quick. But before I do, when the Heat are brought up by national media people, I feel like we sense that sometimes they don't really know exactly what they're talking about. And that's, where the point comes in of what you said, Brian, like to hear the guys here at Five Reasons or wherever here in the local media talk about the Heat, you just feel more comfortable with it because these guys know what they're talking about. And, you really can't say that with the national media. Like, we've had a good team and like, we have a lot of useful pieces, but we don't know exactly who from the national media exactly pays attention to it. And that's why sometimes I get surprised when the Heat are being talked about in the national media, that some of these people know who Max Strus is and all these other guys. But aside from that, George, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to put out there that if I had a penny for every time I heard a story about Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard being loyal to their franchise, or Ben Simmons update or something like that, we'd have enough money to pay out the entire of Duncan's contract. But the reason why the media turns a blind eye to Miami as a whole is for two reasons, and it's evident in the fact that even, we knew everything about Omi Yurtseven even before he started the game in the NBA. We'll be talking about him since the G League, before the G League. You know what I mean? We've known about him, but Shaq, he got his record broken matched by Omiya, and he still didn't know anything about him. He only knew something about him from the game that he went to in Miami. So it's not surprising because, number one, what Brian and you guys have been saying, with the money for clicks for teams like LA are just way bigger than we could ever imagine in Miami, and tabloids know that. The media knows that. That's why they do what they do. But also the fact that they like to have an underdog story. They love to have a team that comes out of nowhere to really sweep everyone off their feet. They had it last year with Atlanta and Phoenix. They were really both taking massive strides. They weren't even talking about Milwaukee that much. They were talking more about Phoenix than anything. But I think that when you've got a team like us, which has been under the radar for so many years, and they overperform, it's just such a better story for them to write about when it comes to playoff time. When it comes down to playoff time, to have that team that comes in and does what they do, and then they talk about it then. But until then, we've got our team to worry about. Our teams just focus on basketball. That's what we should be focused on as well.
Right. And, it honestly doesn't matter at this point because what's important is that we know this team is good and like we know what this team is capable of doing. And, it's funny because I remember I saw on Twitter, someone brought up how, ESPN wanted to show the highlight of Jimmy missing that layup in the Hawks game, late in that one a few nights ago, and someone brought up the good point how they never want to acknowledge how this team would bowl out even without our star players, but when something like that takes place they feel the need to post it ASAP. And that just goes to show how much the national media honestly cares about the Heat. It's pathetic, but at this point it is what it is. And as you mentioned, Brian, like, obviously Miami is not like California and all those other places. So, they want to get their clicks and, can you blame them? I guess from their perspective, not really, but it is frustrating though. So with that being said, let's go to a lighter note, and it's time for the segment that y'all know and love, and that's none other than the Spotlight Heat Player of the Week. After seeing the way the Heat have played going 2-1 this past week, we want to know who deserves to be the Spotlight Heat Player of the Week. So tell us who your pick is, Brian.
Jimmy Buckets, because he's the best player on the team. Triple-double versus the Lakers. He should be in the MVP conversation. If he had played more games, I really think he would be. I'm always going to go with the best player on the squad, so Jimmy Butler.
Right. How about you, George?
For me, it's Bam. Bam coming back to us was probably the biggest hit of adrenaline I've ever had since that one time as a kid. We have something called Whiz Fizz down here, which is like just powdered sugar, and you used to just get it all in a bowl and just like suck it through a straw. And that's the first time I felt that rush since I was a kid. just watching him play, watching him do what he does is nothing short of phenomenal. And anyone wants to call him a system player is ridiculous on every level, on every single level. I only give him player of the week because of what he did against I think it was a Portland the other day, where he took over the game at the end of the game and absolutely locked them down for the 4 minutes of just the most amazing defensive basketball I think I've seen this Heat team play since he's been out. I'm not shocked by it because he's our cornerstone player. Him and Tyler are the future of this organization as it stands, and I couldn't be happier with his return. I would love to see him get way more aggressive going towards the basket because he only takes 13 shots a game. Now it might sound like a lot. It's absolutely not. For the starting center who's playing 33 minutes a night, I want to see him closer to to even Butler's numbers, which is 15. He should be taking anywhere between 15 and 20 shots a night, getting his looks, getting himself open. His mid-range is looking good again. I'm really happy to see it happen. But the block on LeBron and the defensive stretch down the end of the game was just incredible for me. That's why he's my Heat player of the week.
Right. And for me, for my spotlight Heat player of the week, y'all know I like to go a different route with it. So for this week, I'm going to say Caleb Martin. And the reason why is because he actually had a pretty good week. To start it off, he had the 26-point game against Portland. Then he had 11 in Atlanta, followed by the 15-point game against the Lakers. And he capped that game off with the game-winning dunk, or was it a layup? I'm not sure. But, he helped seal that game up for the Heat. I just love the dude's hustle, and I'm just forever going to be grateful and just going to forever thank Pat Riley that not only did he sign this dude, but he signed this dude on a 2-way contract. Like, it's freaking amazing. And now you hear about people talking about, they want to give Caleb Martin, a $10 million a year type contract and stuff. And, while we don't know exactly how that will work come free agency time, for now, I just want to focus on the fact that Miami really did it again. They continue to find these players, and it's freaking amazing. So, you know what? I'm going to open the floor to you guys to this. And I don't want to take too long to discuss this because we do need to talk about this Knicks game. And I want to, it's been something that was all over Twitter the other night. And I know, George, you brought up the idea about talking about this. So I'll let y'all steer the convo for this one. And that's none other than, and before we say anything, just so you guys know, yes, we know Bradley Beal will more than likely never get traded. So don't think that we're just sitting here trying to hype up something that will never happen. It's all just hypotheticals at this point. And that's none other than the idea of trading Bradley Beal to Miami for Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and PJ Tucker. A whole debate stirred from this last night. So, you know what? Take the floor, George. Tell us what you think about it, and then Brian, you can go up next. Because really, I don't really care about this type of stuff. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, shout out to Ariel for giving us fruit for conversation here. If you want to go follow him, it's at Ariel at Adius number 2. So it's a trade that really caught my eye because most of Heat Twitter was on board with it. I take a completely different approach to it. I would never, ever in a million years take this trade, only because Tyler Hero is showing us glimpses of having that first option scorer come out of him. He won't be the sixth man forever. He knows he doesn't want to be the sixth man forever. And I feel like if he was getting proper minutes with the proper looks, he'd be averaging the exact same as Beal is. He's only 3 points behind him now. Which is incredible to me to see. But I'm not doing this trade for 2 reasons. Number one, Tyler's just looking way too good. Number 2, PJ Tucker is our only power forward and is an absolute defensive anchor. Something that we've been, we haven't really looked at defense as being the problem over the years, but having him just shows why it's so important to have multiple guys that can get you stops. Also, he's leading the league in 3-point percentage and doing it from the corner as well. So I wouldn't do this trade because it disrupts, disrupts chemistry as well throughout the season. Even the offseason, I wouldn't do it. But everyone says that, it's because he's a massive offensive threat and things like that. And yes, I understand that you can never have too much offense on a team when you're looking to when you have title aspirations. But I'm a guy that really just is a big believer in developing the home talent that we have and making them good enough to do what we need them to do. So Tyler, for me, is a player that can eventually be like a Bradley Beal. And hopefully he's got the same loyalty as a Bradley Beal. But I'm not taking this trade now, but I understand why that's a team, the Heat would look towards a trade like that if it ever was to come to fruition.
Right. And how about you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm doing that deal 100 times out of 100. Look, Tyler Hero has played very, very well this season. I think that he should be in the All-Star conversation for sure. But as Chef Trilly put it, he's statistically like the worst isolation scorer in the league. Like, he's just not. Again, I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but the 20 points per game on 43% shooting, I don't think his true shooting or his effective field goal percentage are super. Like, I don't know. When we're comparing Tyler to a guy of the caliber of Bradley Beal, you would expect those, or you would hope that those numbers would be in the same ballpark, and they're just not. I want to be careful and not get anybody mad at my Tyler Hero takes, but he's played very well for a guy who has the luxury of playing off of Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler. Like, I think that if you put Bradley Beal in that same position, and you had guys Jimmy drawing attention inside and kicking out to Beal for a wide open three from literally anywhere on the court, man, he would explode. Like, this guy averaged 30 last season with an effective field goal percentage of, hold on, am I looking at his effective? Tyler's effective field goal percentage just isn't what you would expect out of a guy if you're putting him in that Bradley Beal conversation. Like, last season, Bradley Beal averaged 30 points and had a true shooting percentage of 59%. That is absolutely insane on high usage. Like, not only that, but he had absolutely nobody else. I mean, he had Russell Westbrook, but he's not drawing a ton of defensive attention these days. He had, to be the primary offensive option on a team and be that efficient is absolutely insane. Like, if you give Bradley Beal the type of shot creators and offensive weapons that Bam, Kyle, and Jimmy are to take away the attention of the defense, like, that would be, oh my God. Like, I think that Bradley Beal would absolutely lead the league in scoring. He might be in the MVP conversation. If we're talking about a 1 or 2 seed in Miami Heat, the Bradley Beal averaging an efficient 30 plus, like, that would be crazy. Again, Tyler is very, very good, but Bradley Beal is at this next level of great almost. And I just think that you have to make that trade all day long. Like, the game is about getting stars, and I get that losing losing PJ would be a huge hole in the front court, but you can find role players. Like, they find role players every single season. Duncan, his production can basically be replaced by Max Strus. But yeah, man, I just don't see how you don't make that trade. Like, I just think you have to.
I'm looking at this trade, and I understand what you're saying about Bradley Beal. This is an extremely high efficiency scorer. He does what he does on high usage. But there's problems with that, in my opinion. When you're looking at a guy that's 28 years old, he's entering the statistical prime of his career. And you put his numbers next to a 22-year-old Tyler Hero. I'm not saying that Tyler's anything like Bradley Beal or will be a scorer like him, because, he a couple seasons ago, the man averaged damn near 31 points a game. It's uncanny that a 22-year-old is basically replicating what Bradley Beal's giving you now on better efficiency, on less shots a night, averaging 3 less points, but at the same time having a 10% increase in 3 points percentage. I know there's factors to it that you've got to come, that need to come into consideration. health and the big, the rotate of the team, big changes in the team, it's not easy to always deal with if you're Bradley Beal. But, the fact that Tyler's doing what he's doing at 22, at giving you 21, 5 and 4 off the bench on 43% shooting, nearly 40% from three as well, with better free throw scoring as well. I think that's an asset that down the line you're going to want to have on your team, and we're going to look towards the future as well. We're going to look towards the bigger picture of a team in 2026, 2027, when Jimmy retires, and we're looking towards a player having Tyler Hero come into the prime of his career with Bam Adebayo, being able to build around them as well is really important. And picking up a 28-year-old Bradley Beal will work for now. And the goal's a chip. We all want that. We all just want the championship. I don't care what it costs us 15 years of our future. But if I'm going to have to look at that way, it is what it is. It's if it's a trade that people think it should happen, then I understand why it would happen. But Tyler Hero has just been too good this year to give up. And that's just without factoring in Duncan Robinson, which would be a plus to kind of shed his contract. But you're taking on a fourth $30 million contract, which barely works on paper. But if there's any team that's going to pick up role players around them for the minimum on two-way contracts and train them into giving them the proficiency in our system that's going to give them the best output, it's our team. I think that Pat Riley literally lays these names on Spoelstra's desk, and Spoelstra's sitting there going, okay, what am I going to do now? He would have seen Caleb Martin's name. He would have looked at the film and been like, all right, I know exactly what to do here. But I'm tell you right now, it's going to be a hard pass for me, but I understand why the trade would go through.
Right. You know what? And honestly, and Brian, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I was going to say, I understand where you're coming from with it. Tyler Hero has definitely shown a lot of promise. And I think that, if it's not for a Bradley Beal type player, I wouldn't do it. But for me, I look at those 30-year numbers and I say, well, Andrew Wiggins had a better year than Tyler Hero did. Just statistically had a better year in his third year than, Bradley Beal or Tyler Hero even, or you could even if you want to get super crazy, but let's compare Andrew Wiggins' 30-year numbers to Kobe 30-year numbers. Andrew Wiggins would have looked like the better player. But on the same token, just because the numbers show one thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that the player is of the same caliber. Just if you do the Andrew Wiggins to Kobe comparison, 30-year Wiggins is still nowhere near as good as 30-year Kobe. And in the same way, I feel it's similar for Tyler Hero and Bradley Beal, where the numbers statistically may look very similar. I mean, CJ McCollum and Tyler Hero basically have the same 30-year numbers, right? Actually, I think that those are pretty two comparable players. But I'm the same. But nobody would say that CJ at this point is as good as Bradley Beal, even though if you went to Brad's 30-year and CJ's 30-year, the numbers probably look better in favor of CJ. So I think it just comes down to, the individual player and situation. Like I said, I think that you could put Beal on the Heat right now. His game just takes off to a whole other level. And I think that it does put you in a position to win a championship right now. I think that a Lowry, Beal, Jimmy, Bam team with Victor Oladipo coming off the bench, because I guess he wouldn't be in the trade. To me, that's the best team in the East, by far. I think that they're the favorites to come out and, win it all. So, I mean, in my opinion, for me personally, I would rather take that now and, have however many years of Jimmy's prime or Kyle Lowry, however long he's going to be in the NBA. You're probably going to be looking at the next 3 or 4 years of contention. And then if guys flame out, then cool. I mean, at the very least, you got a championship or two out of it, and that's what it's all about. So that's where I would go.
Right. And then George, I'm giving you a quick minute to add. Go.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's from Brian speaking. I'm not changing my mind, but I'd like to add something in favor of the trade as well. Just thinking about it now, this team's had a big problem of relying on too many people in too many situations, and having too many options at one time may not be the best course of action. But if you're going to negate, Hero's production, which hasn't needed to be negated. Duncan's production, which has been extremely negatable. He's a hit or miss type of player. And if I'm going to take away those factors and replace them with Beal, I think I might be on that train of thought. I just feel like a guy that can give you 25, 30 a night and do it consistently, which he's done in Washington, while adding him to a cast of already extremely accomplished, defenders and great playmaking. But alongside Kyle Lowry, I think that would be an exciting team.
Right. And now it's time to quickly steer the pod back on track. So you guys made good points. Unfortunately, I just simply don't care enough because, and like I said, you guys did bring up good arguments. For me, it's like at the end of the day, I know Beal wants to stay in Washington, which is why, I could care less about this type of stuff. But, that it's definitely an interesting argument that both of you guys brought up, if Beal was to be available for trade. Anyways, let's now talk about this upcoming game for Miami, as they'll be playing the New York Knicks come tomorrow. Well, at least as this pod is being recorded tomorrow. This will be the Heat's first meeting against the Knicks, and as of right now, more than likely Kyle Lowry will be out for this game. As you guys probably know already, he's missed the past few games due to personal reasons. Kyle, if you end up listening to this pod, prayers up, bro. Hope you get better soon, dealing whatever it is that you're dealing with. And then also Tyler Hero, he looks ready to make his return. The news is that he is out of protocol, so there's that. And then aside from that, really, what's everyone's expectations on this game for the Heat? And do you guys think the Heat walk away with the win? What's your take, Brian?
Yeah, the Knicks aren't good, so I definitely expect them to win. They better win. They're the best team in the East. The Knicks are best. The Knicks probably best hope for this season is a play-in game. So yeah, it's going to be an easy dub.
Right. How about you, Shay?
I expect that we win. That's it. Because the Knicks are trash.
Okay. Thank you, Shay. And how about you, George?
Yeah, I hope to God they'll come away with this victory, because there's nothing more than I hate seeing on Twitter than a Knicks victory. But I've got some really good bing bong memes that I want to put in chats. I want to put in in servers and stuff. I really want to start putting them around. So bing bong tweets incoming. But I just want to see the Heat take care of opponents that we need to take care about. We know what we're capable of. We know what they're not capable of. And for a team that's struggling to be in a play-in position, I hope to God that we win. But I really just hope we go in there and take care of business. I don't want any pissy 4-point win, 3-point win. I want to see a solid double-digit performance. I want to see Bam be aggressive against a team with minimal interior defense, and I want to see our defenders do what they do and lock down those players. But if we can negate what Barrett's doing, and I've been a big hater on Barrett, but only because the comparison to Tyler Hero, but he's coming to his own this season, and it's really, really impressive to see. Julius has been productive and okay, but he has his games where it looks like a 10th man on the rotation. So I expect the Heat win, and I really, 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 really want to see one.
Right. For me personally, I also see the Heat winning this game. New York, they're definitely nowhere near the team they were last year. And even last year's team wasn't really that good. Let's just say the facts how it is. And, I expect the Heat to get the win. I want Bam to just basically own Julius Randle, especially because I'm still kind of pissed at Knicks fans for having the audacity to say that this man, Julius Randle, was better than Chris Bosh. Nah, y'all got to face jail time for that. But, I expect the Heat to win. And, with Tyler playing, I expect him to have a good game, coming out of protocols and stuff. So, yeah, that's my call. I have the Heat winning it. Aside from that, I feel like we covered so much on today's episode that before we close it out, I want to thank you all for tuning in.
Joe.
What's up?
Never mind.
So basically, we covered so much on today's episode that before we close it out, I want to thank you all for tuning in. And if you want more Heat vs. the World content, go ahead and follow our Twitter and Instagram page at HBTW Podcast while checking out our new website at hbtwpodcast.wordpress.com. Last but not least, make sure to check out Culture Shock, the Heat vs. the World's newest extension show, which is the first Miami Heat pod to feature an all-women cast, as they'll be dropping a new episode very soon. So aside from that, once again, thank you all for tuning in to today's episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast, and we'll see you guys soon with another episode. We out.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast.